celebrate.
It was an incredible experience, and the world gravitated towards the show because there really hadn't, at that point, been anything like it.
Metaphorical cats, statistical cats, and mystical cats, political cats, hypocritical cats, lyrical cats, hysterical cats, cynical cats, rabbinical cats.
So it became probably your first really massive
It
hit.
changed my life. This extraordinary success happened and I was able to pay off my debts. And I realised within 6 months that there was such an international appetite for wanting to do the show that this was going to be a kind of success you'd dream of, in a career, which, unless I was stupid, would allow me to have the most precious thing that there is in the theatre, and that's freedom of choice to do what I wanted and not just have to do a show to make a living.
When Cats transferred to Broadway the following year, it took $6 million in advance sales, which meant Andrew and Cameron could call the shots.
There weren't that many British musical imports, and when they were brought over, they were always tweaked by American producers. So to bring something over lock, stock, and barrel as Cats was, it was unusual. Cats was just an enormous hit, and for the British musical to generate a hit of that magnitude in modern times was really unheard of.
Smash hits like Cats don't just make themselves. As producer, Cameron realised that this novel show needed an innovative marketing campaign.
It was around this time that Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark started coming out. And these phenomenal shows were A, captivating the world, and B, starting a merchandising franchise, the like of which we'd never seen. They had very, very strong logos. And I said, we need to have something like that.
Cats made history in marketing because the idea that you would have an abstract poster and a logo with two cat's eyes, that you wouldn't bill stars, you wouldn't even bill Andrew Lloyd Webber's name, that you would sort of merchandise it as a product in a way that wasn't typical of the way Broadway shows or West End shows done. That was sort of a stroke of marketing genius that no one had thought of before, and it changed the whole industry.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow.
The early 1980s were a transformative time for Cameron. Not only did he make his mark as a producer, but during a world tour of Oklahoma, he had a chance encounter that would change his life.
On the opening night in Adelaide, I suddenly noticed somebody across a crowded room, and I go, who is that? And that was an incredibly good-looking 22-year-old Australian called Michael the Pearl Trench.
When I first met Cameron, everyone was lined up to meet him on the opening night, and it was quite funny because we'd all had an idea who this person, Cameron Mackintosh, was coming over from UK. It was his production, and it was almost like a royal lineup.
And Michael was just standing there with lots of people, and rough-haired terriers queuing up to say hello to him, and I put myself in the queue.
I didn't spend a lot of time chatting with Cameron on that night because there were an awful lot of people that wanted his attention. But I just mentioned to him that I'd be flying back to Sydney the next day.
But I can't find out what time the plane is. So on the Sunday, after the show's opened, I get there at 10 o'clock and I wait at the newsagents all day, wondering which plane he's going to catch. And at 4:30, he sort of wandered in and I went, "Hi, oh, what a fancy seeing you." And rushed off to get a ticket on the same plane.
My God, you rushed off.
I didn't have a ticket. And there were two airlines. I didn't know which airline he was on. So I literally waited for hours and hours and hours until I knew which plane he was on. And I said, I'll get on that.
What was it about Cameron that stood out on that first night? I don't know, because that's that magic chemistry, isn't it? You see each other, and there was just something clicked.
It's not a coincidence that Some Enchanted Evening is a song that means a lot to us, because it was literally across a crowded room. And I did meet a stranger who became immediately part of my life.
Some enchanted evening, you may see a stranger.
Of course, it's been tempestuous, up and down and whatever, but there's a glue that is unbreakable.
I was telling this story at a dinner where Cameron was about 10 years after we'd met, and Cameron said, "That's not actually what happened." And I said, "What do you mean, Cameron? I was there." He said, "Actually, I'd been at the airport since 8 o'clock in the morning, because I didn't know what flight you're on, and I never knew that. I just thought we turned up at the same time."
In 1982, a concept album landed on Cameron's desk.
Comment faire? Verrai-je un jour la fin de ce calvaire?
The musical had enjoyed a successful run in France, but had yet to find further backers.
Sans cesse, à chaque alerte, changer d'adresse. Comment faire?
I remember putting it on, and of course the music is so evocative and the atmosphere on the recording was so extraordinary that after listening to 4 tracks, I went, wow, this is really, really different.
C'est comme la foudre que l'on recèle.
An adaptation of Victor Hugo's novel Les Misérables wasn't an obvious premise for a feel-good show. But Cameron was the producer who'd been mad enough to do a musical about cats.
Having listened to it, I absolutely decided I was going to press ahead with it. So the first thing I did was go, now I have to track down Alain Bibiel and Claude Michel Schoenberg.